it's time we finally built this green bike. You've probably seen it knocking around in the back of our videos for ages. I think we took delivery back in November. Anyway, good reason for that is I wanted to try and have a really good think about how to build this bike in a lightweight way, but not going utterly ridiculous, being sensible with our choices. So I still want it to be fun going downhill, still feel like a rideable bike and not on the absolute cutting edge and have a horrible sort of anxiety-inducing ride. I wanted to be able to hit a pothole at speed and still feel like I was going to stay upright. So this is the Wilier Verticale. It's a size medium, a little bit too small for me. Never know how you should weigh a bike. I mean, this is a proprietary seat post, so you're going to have to include it anyway. Interestingly, it's also on the Mavic axle system. If you guys never come across this, this is like the speed axle. It's actually a double thread. So don't use your chasers and taps on this because it will not work. Let's give a rough idea of what it is that we're working with here. So we are 970 grams with a seat post. So it's probably 800 and something by the time we take the seat post and the axles out, but hey ho, it's going to be light. Now, here's the interesting thing when it comes to lightweighting a road bike, and that is nearly everything is built around like a rider being of average build and weight. So somewhere between 70 and 80 kilograms. It's not even anything to do with the industry. That is just mere point of physics and what's actually available on the marketplace. And here's the thing, here's me at 80 kilograms. Let's take a pro rider somewhere around the high 60s to low 70s. A bike is generally about 10% of our body weight, which is fine. And if I think about my entire system weight, my body weight, the bike weight, the water bottles, all the stuff I carry in my pockets, changing my bike weight from a 7.5 kilo bike down to a 6.5 kilo bike, i.e. 1 kilogram difference, is next to nothing, and it makes virtually no difference to how fast you can go up a climb. You've all got access to Gemini and ChatGPT. Go and put the figures into the chat yourself and do the sums. Thing is, if you are a really lightweight rider, 50, 60 kilogram bikes, and you're on a normal 7.5 kilogram bike, that is a massive weight tax that you've got to haul up a hill. And that's where it all becomes a little bit unfair. Now, if I was to try and ride a really, really lightweight bike, again, even down to a 5 kilogram bike, the total system weight is virtually nothing compared to what it would be for a lighter rider. So with all that in mind, I'm building this for someone who's a size medium, someone that's going to be around 70 kilos. And I want to build it that, one, they feel really confident on it, and also still get that lovely light dancing on the pedals feel as you ride. Now, some of you might remember from a video we did about how do you modify Ultegra. Well, that video was pretty much my research for this. I've taken on some of your ideas, I've harvested a whole bunch of stuff here to go through. We're going to stick with the Shimano Ultegra group set, but we're going to make some modifications as we go. We've even got everyone suggested in the comments you should get one of these carbon Seabree things with Dura-Ace things, so you still get the right shift in, and we've got some bottom brackets to sort of equal out the weight. We've got some Galfer brake rotors. We've even got some AliExpress cassettes as well. And we've even got some titanium bolts. We're going to weigh things as we go and try and make those intelligent choices. Right, let's get started. First of all, we need to run some hoses. Here is our first weight saving thing. This is an Ultegra front caliper. Brake pads removed, still got the adapter on. We are 121 grams, pretty beefy bit of kit. So this then is the Hope. This is M for mineral oil. This is a 4-pot caliper. It's already got the adapter built in. 98 grams, 50 grams saving, and you get better braking performance as well because it's a 4-pot caliper. So happy days. And so these are about 120 pounds, I think. These will probably still sell on eBay for around 50. I'm going to put some of these bits and pieces as we go and the links below so you can see what price we actually achieve. Even though we're going for a super lightweight build, I still want to put my little pumpkins on the end. Now with Hope stuff, you get pretty much everything that you need. So you get little bleed blocks, the mounting bolts, and the washers. Remember, the washers are really important. And we also have our funky little olive here and our little brass olive there. So let's just salvage all this out. Now, obviously chosen the blue colour on purpose. Don't care whether you guys like it or not, I think it's going to look really cool. We've got some other blue bits and pieces to come as well. Now, we also have some blue titanium bolts from our friends at Gorilla Brakes. Let's have a quick look at our savings. 7 grams, almost 8 grams worth of bolts compared to 3.5. See, that is a weight saving. That is also not very expensive, but also looks really cool as well, and I'm all on board with that. Yeah, actually, just looking at these brake mounts, I think we're gonna have to do just a little bit of finishing just here. This is a ceramic knife. You can see how this is painting. This isn't just a clear coat. This has got to be some sort of colouring in that clear coat as well. Now, I just started threading this, and I can tell that it's not a very clean thread. So, what I'm going to do is just chase that thread with the steel bolt. Yeah, I think there must have just been a little bit of clear coat or something in there, and a little bit of thread lock. Thread lock, if you remember, these bolts should be thread locked, but they don't come pre-thread locked, they're not pre-patched. So this has the same coefficient of friction as those little patches. So this little thing here looks pointless, but it just goes up against the paintwork and it just stops any vibrations, that noise. There we go, look at that. I think that looks sick. Don't forget to keep the little plastic or the little paper bag. They used to be plastic bags, and as much as I like the fact that they're now paper, that is a little bit easier to throw away if you're not careful. And I'm taking the pads out because I'm going to be cutting the brake hose. I just don't want to risk contaminating the pads at all. So oil can just splash, and it'll just be really annoying if a little splash of oil got onto some fresh pads. So safest thing to do is just take them out, put them to one side. There we go. And I know you want the weigh in, so Ultegra caliper without any adapters, 105 grams. Now the interesting thing, this should actually have an adapter on it because this is just for 140 rotors, whereas the Hope one has actually already got an adapter built in for 160. So this is going to be even better. So 86 grams, and that is with the adapter that we're going to need for the 160mm rotor. So happy days. Anyway, let's get this threaded. We want to go that end. Want a little bit of pipe lagging. Don't want too much because it actually adds weight, but just enough to stop it vibrating against the down tube. So before we do this rear caliper, Hope instructions say you need 7 to 8mm of thread showing above the rear flat mounts. Now, obviously you can't buy bolts in every single millimetre, so you need to use some washers there. So with just one washer, we are at 9. So I think we're just going to need 2 washers, and that should be 8. So I might actually need 3. I think I might try and find a little aluminium standoff now I've seen it, but for now we're going to go with the 3 washers. This is a cool little tool, something I picked off AliExpress thinking, oh yeah, make up some postage on something. Actually turned out to be awesome. So right now we're just going super loose, we're just trying to hold it into place so it can still move around. So this grease is Autotop 200, it's not Shimano premium grease. I know that it looks like it, but this is an extremely sticky, extremely waterproof and impact resistant grease. I mean, the impact resistance is not really about the squeeze, so that when it takes a bit of a hit and a bit of vibration, it doesn't just squeeze all the grease out. It's got some stay-in properties, so to speak. So this is how I like to do it. It just keeps everything clean so I don't get grease all over my hand as I'm constructing the headset. And we'll go around. One thing with these Wilier frames, the paintwork is amazing. I mean, they're definitely famous for their paintwork, but you do need to be a little bit careful with some paint overspray and bits and pieces, just worth cleaning off. I'll show you there's a tiny bit in the bottom bracket. This headset is perfectly clean, but it's definitely worth just checking. They also use their skinny little bearing on the top. Now this is a black oxide coated bearing, and it's quite easy to get these the wrong way around. But if you look closely, you can just see that there is like a chamfer on one edge. It's the chamfer that needs to go in first. And here in the UK, our brakes, our front brake is going to be on my right side, so I'm going to want this to sit just like that. There we go, now we can start building up the headset. Now this is going to be a shop demo bike, so don't judge me, but we're going for pretty much the full stack of spacers. Basically means that I might just about be able to ride it. Now these are all split apart from that top one, so but just for ease I'm just going to thread this. I've already cut the steerer tube on this, so let's see if I can keep all of these together and not fall apart on me. So here's the handlebar, look at that. Super skinny, a little bit of a flare to them, and they're going to work out really nice. So this is the tricky bit. Normally you don't necessarily need lots of internal routing stuff with these, as long as you can get it roughly to where you want to be. Got a little bit of brake fluid leakage because I've actually had to put a pick through the little wax seals. So I'm just going to tidy that up as we go. A little bit of IPA, blue roll. Hey, and we're in. Let's get a top cap on there. Next up, shifters. Now there is virtually no difference between Ultegra and Dura-Ace shifters. In fact, pretty much the only difference is this little titanium clamps. These cost, I think they're about 20 quid, I think they were. So again, pretty cheap little upgrade, but let's just have a look, see if it made any difference at all. Here we go, one Ultegra clamp, 16 grams, one super light Dura-Ace clamp, 11. Brilliant, I'm gonna save the grand total of 10 grams, but I'm gonna feel so much better about it. I'm having a bit of a joke really, but it just goes to show the Ultegra group set right now really is fantastic value. I mean, I made a video when the Ultegra group set first came out and it was like £2,800. It's like way overpriced, and systematically that price has just been coming down and down and down. And not just, you know, online discounting either. Our trade price has been coming down as well. So it's not just like a case of discounting. It's super loose right now because we're going to need to move this out of the way to get that hose in and then close it back down again, and also set the position when it's actually on the floor. Take note, a little bit of white thread lock pre-applied at the end there, and that's that friction that you can feel when you're trying to get the nut started. It's there obviously to increase the friction of the thread, so if it's missing, make sure you put it back, because when we do these up to torque, obviously that torque setting is there to make sure you get the clamping force but not to over clamp the carbon. So if that little bit of stuff is missing and you don't replace it with something, then you can easily over torque stuff and have a cracked bar, which is never cool. Again, super loose, we wouldn't want to go tight on a ball end anyway, but just to get things into position right now. Right, we need to do a bit of Di2 action in. There we go. Now, all you budding mechanics will know that I probably should have done the Di2 routing first when there's no weight on the frame, but we were waiting for the batteries to arrive and they just have, so this is the way we did it. Now, I do need to think of a way of getting the battery to stay in there because it doesn't actually come with something from a spec, so going to need to probably modify one of those, but for now I'm just going to get the cables run through. Now this is not clamped, this is just like hanging there, pretty much just balanced, and I'm going to try and be super careful. Lots of blue roll to protect the paintwork. Now if the frame is nice and clean on the inside, none of this should be too difficult. Quickest way of doing this, a little bit of plastic tube, just something a little bit more rigid, a little bit of masking tape, don't need to make a big deal about it. Now, it is just worth putting a little bit of tape up here to stop that being pulled through by accident. Cool, I think for this, we are going to just use a small piece of it. Dreams. Let's just very carefully do that up. Okay, rear mech next, because while I'm going to be doing the brakes, you might as well get the battery charging so you can do the gears. So Sort of just trying to think ahead a little bit. Obviously not demonstrated by having to do the cable routing at that point. But again, just be careful when you're disposing of all these boxes, because inside here there will be all the bits and pieces that you need. Now, when it came to the rear mech, there are a few upgrades that we could have done to this bike. And we could have gone for a super lightweight OSPW, oversized pulley wheel. That definitely would have reduced some friction and stuff. And we also could have just swapped out the cage completely and gone for a Dura-Ace one. It's a bit of an expensive upgrade for the weight that it saves. We're at 260 grams. Now, what I did fancy doing, well, just for bling status, was to get these little matching blue jockey wheels, which I think will look super cool. Now, I've got no idea whether it's actually going to save any weight or not. So 24 grams, nice. Now you can actually get these bolts here, these special jockey wheel bolts. You can actually get them made out of titanium as well, but let's face it, it's really not going to save you very much weight, is it? Even if you half the weight, it's not going to change your world. Where are we? Ultegra jockey wheels, 21 grams versus 23. Oh no, I'm adding 3 grams of weight. Oh, the world's going to end. Okay, so we've got a lower jockey wheel and we've got an uppy jockey wheel. Now I'm going for my 3 gram penalty in weight being made up for in frictional gains. So some of these little bags, we've got a little waterproof grommet thing. Always good when the light comes on, it means the battery is actually connected. And we've got this little doojem flit just here. That tucks away down there. And all of this can tuck away. Quickly gonna connect the front mech up. Now, there is absolutely no weight savings to be had whatsoever out of a front mech. With Shimano front mechs, what you normally get is you get one of these little things here. Now this is for this little screw back here. I can't see it now, but you're just going to protect that screw from touching the frame. This is the screw that you're going to use to control your yaw. So you don't want that screw digging into your frame. So that just sits there. Now on this, there's actually this whole mech mount is going to do the job for us. You don't need it. But if you've got a frame where that's going to sit against it, that's what that's for. And in here, the most annoying bit of plastic in the world, this little thing here, which is just going to help it go through a 90-degree angle onto that. The easiest way of doing this is to get these in first. Again, loose fit. Batteries are all charged, which is pretty cool. And before I do the brakes, I just want to install the bottom bracket and make sure there's no problems with that before we've connected everything up. Now, there is, I can tell, a little bit of clear coat overspray in there, which is really disappointing. Just up here, I can feel it. It's that big. There's almost no point putting these in because I know they're not going to fit because I can feel that clear coat. So it's going to take my ceramic knife for this, and we're just going to take some of this clear coat off. Now, I can't say that Wilier always make a perfect bottom bracket, but they are normally better than this. There you go, you can see what's just coming off. It's just like bits of clear coat. Now this frame has got a bit of a history. It was a salesman sample, and they normally get them a little bit more raw and unfinished than what comes out to the shops. They assume that the sales reps are going to do their quality control. And to be honest, I don't really expect the frames to be built. They're the ones that they take round to shops to show them new models. As a ceramic knife, it's really effective at just removing bits like this, but without the risk of it digging into the carbon and causing a scratch. You can see how effective it is. Yeah, I think we're still going to need a little bit of reaming to do. This side doesn't seem as bad. Yeah, in fact, that side is absolutely fine. So here's the decision though, is because when you've got a lovely painted frame like this, is do you face it? And it's like such a quandary, isn't it? Now, they have left just enough to face. There's slight little lip there, so we should be okay to face it. I think I can just feel that lip there, so I am tempted. After all, this is a Mapdec build. I mean, if it was a customer's bike, I'd probably give them a call and just double check. They'd nearly always say yes, and the lip of the bottom bracket ideally is going to cover it anyway. So let's get those tools out, let's finish it off nicely. If you choose not to face it, they do this 57mm blanking plate, so you can just use that and go up flush against it. In fact, do you know what? I think I'll do that because once it's in, I should see how out of true that face is. Just get sure that all those cables stuff are out of the way. Quite a lot of people always freak out about this, but it's no different to correcting a thread fit frame. It's just that we are not as familiar with it, that's all. And this is, remember, it is a frame correction. It's not a modification. Real distinction there. So in terms of all your warranties and everything else, this is exactly the same technique that they would use in the Wilier factory. Remember when we went round and there'd be a mechanic on their workstation doing exactly the same job as me? Well, there should be anyway. As we know from this channel, it's not always the case, sadly. So we are definitely going to need to face, because there is a massive gap down there. That's really disappointing. So you can see the amount of material comes off. It really wasn't very much and it went in dead easy. Just that last little bit of clear coat. Let's try that again. Now the other thing you might be asking is, why isn't it using any cutting fluid? Well, we're not cutting metal, we're just removing paint. And I could do this with a sandpaper, basically, but it's a whole lot easier and a whole lot more accurate to use these. Just gonna go in carefully and you should see it cut up here first into that paint. And you can just start seeing the first curls of paint coming off there. And when you're removing paint, there's always a bit of a quandary in your mind as do you keep going and remove all the paint so that you just have a perfectly black face, or do you just stop when your paint is even? There's quite a lot of paint on this, to be honest. So I think I am just gonna go until I'm fairly happy that the paint is just flush. And a good guide, without having to get the feeler gauges out, is you should see all the teeth cutting. If there's still a tooth that isn't cutting anywhere, it means it's not touching anything. So there we go, you can see there's that big blob of paint that's taken off. And we should be able to put our gauge in and see a nice flat surface. Perfect, cool. I think that was worth doing. That's significantly better finish. Let's just do that same thing and just check the other side. In fact, yeah, I don't think the other side needs doing at all. I cannot see a gap anywhere, so let's not spoil that paintwork. Right, let's talk cranksets and bottom brackets. So here is the standard Ultegra crankset. This is 170mm compact chain set, 3450, probably the best selling sizes. And there's our little plastic bit and there's our crank, 715 grams, wicked. Now add a Dura-Ace bottom bracket to that, press fit, 770, call it, 770. Pretty standard setup, happy days. Loads of you in the comments are like, oh, the best way of losing weight was to get like one of these AliExpress Seabury type cranksets. So I did. I've got it unbranded, but here we go. Thing is, this is a dub axle. Couldn't find one with a 24mm axle. They all seem to be dub. They probably do some. But I also, because I didn't like the shifting, I've used these before and the shifting was awful. And loads of you suggested, well, why don't you just, you know, use Shimano? And therefore you can't, well, you've run out of arguments, Paul. You can just use standard Shimano chain rings, use a lightweight crankset, and you get the best of both worlds. Well, here you go. So here we've got Dura-Ace Dura-Ace chain rings, these Seabury carbon cranks, 523. But here's the thing, is you need to run a different bottom bracket. So this is one of the lightest ones that I think I can get my hands on. This is the Autotop double row bearings, probably the best one that I feel like I would want to use in this situation. And it is significantly heavier than this plastic thing. So it takes the total system weight to 623. So I'll make that, what, about 150 grams difference? One, I don't particularly trust it. And two, it looks shit. So 150 grams, I think we're just gonna go for tried and trusted, best bottom bracket in the world, because it's like 30 quid. It's light as anything. I mean, look at these things, they're like 54 grams, brilliant. And I just think that looks really smart, significantly better than whatever that is, in my humble opinion. So 150 grams, sticking with the Ultegra chain rings. I don't think that is a weight saving worth doing, but read me in the comments, I don't mind. I think that will look a whole lot better than sticking that onto this lovely bike. And we are going in dry, just like the Shimano instructions. God forbid. Just going to make sure that that brake hose is running underneath, because it just gives us a little bit more cable slack. By doing that, we've probably got another service in those brakes if we need to. So we only want to go tight enough that you just feel it touch and you can't see any gaps. Like, don't over tighten it. Just all you need to do is just land them into position. It's really tempting. You see it all the time. You go pushing it in. You don't need to do that. You just literally just need to land them. So all going well, this should be a relatively straightforward fit, he says. So in an ideal world, if things are nicely aligned, once you've got it to here, it should just push home. Don't expect Hambini dreams with this. There's quite a lot of grease, fairly well sealed, but it will get better with time with these. Feeling for when that preload just comes on a little bit tight and then just back it off. There we go, that's nice. Again, we're not doing this to talk just yet. We've just got one more job while we're here, and that is while this little label's on, and every time you turn the cranks at the moment, you'll hear it. We're just going to set the front mech position. You can see that I'm just sort of holding my thumb against this plate. I'm just sort of trying to counteract this natural, I mean, the mech would naturally want to come this way at you, so you're just going to hold it back in place until that clamp's sorted. Then you can take this off. You can just check the gap. Perfect. Right, brakes. We need to connect these up, and then we're going to show you how we're going to bleed up these calipers down here. So in our little packs that we get with this should be our little olives. Okay, this is what we're after. So you get this little split pin, which is if you're using these calipers, that will go into there. You get your brake bolts that we don't need, and that's what we're looking for, our little barb. I'll try and push as much back into the bar as we can, and we're looking to cut it about here. Nice clean cut, mind your eyes. Now, most of the oil has already come out of this, so too worried about oil right now. And also, all of the little olives and bolt is already in the shifter, so all we need to do is install the barb. Now, here is the tricky bit, because you don't want to kink the hose, but you make sure you push it all the way through the olive until it hits the end. That's the really important thing. Trying to think about keeping the end of that cable in contact with the end of the shifter. You should feel it stop. There we go. Push that back. We need to cut just about there. Mind your eyes as you cut. So with hope we have our two bleed blocks like this. They're going to slot in just there. And our bleed nipple is just here, slightly inconvenient place. Bleed procedure, it's not all that dissimilar. Well, quite a lot of fluid came out of this, remember, while we were routing the internal cables, so expecting to pump through a fair bit. So what I've just done here, done a normal flush until I sort of not seeing any bubbles come through. And I'll lock this off, and now you should start seeing the actual pistons moving. Now what can happen with these 4 pots is you'll get some air behind here. So what we're going to do is use a pad separating tool and push these back in and see if we can get these on the other side to move. Now what I'm going to do is apply pressure on this one and see if I can get those other things to move. Let's lock that off. Let's go in gentle, gentle. And we're just trying to get these 2 pistons here to move. There we go. Now that's starting to move. I'm just being gentle with the lever here, because if I put too much pressure on now, this will just blow off. And now you can feel like I've got a bit of a lever bite. Let's see if we can just pull off a bit more air. There we go. Now you can see this is running pretty clear. What I'm going to do here, I need to take this off, but it hasn't got a valve on it. So I'm going to plug this so all the oil just doesn't drain. And then I'm going to try and get in there with a cloth and remove that and get the actual bleed stop in as quick as we can. I'll just continue that bleed. Drop this down, we're just making sure that no more air is coming through here. And we can give this a bit more of a squeeze. Cool, I think we're about done. So hope brakes are a little bit messier because there's no valve on them. There's a little bit of stuff on the floor, but generally speaking, the procedure's about the same. Right, other side. Day 2, and this is where we're up to. Bled the brakes, finished that off camera because it was getting a bit boring. Because it was a completely empty tube, it's quite a little long task. Anyway, that's all good. We need to fit some wheels. Now, I'm not going to labour the point, but these are the wheels that we're going to go for. These are the new DT Swiss Arc 1100s CS for carbon spokes. We reviewed them on the channel a little while ago. Really impressed with the actual build quality on them. Lovely. Bit weird, they come with a 28mm tyre fitted. When you buy them, they actually come with tyres. And the front comes with this 26mm, this isn't inflated as well, it looks even skinnier. On the front, I'm really sort of skeptical. I feel like I want 28 on both, but being tested by people more knowledgeable than me, so I'm really keen to give it a go. But continuing with our lightweight build, when you think about what we're actually going to add to this. So, first up, cassettes. It's always the easiest place to lose some weight off your group set. So let me show you, I'm going to whiz this around on the camera so you can see. This is 1134. After all, this is a climbing bike. We intend to be going up some mountains with it, so it's okay to use an 1134. It's pretty much the standard cassette size for around here. One little aluminium thing. We are 345 grams. One of the upgrades that we do when we're doing our custom builds here, the most common upgrade, and the great thing about doing custom builds is you can choose to spend a little bit more money here, save there, is to go for the Dura-Ace cassette. And the major difference is the two different types of metal on there, and also the spider at the back is significantly lighter versus 260. That is a hell of a weight saving. So these are, I mean, prices fluctuate so much. They can be anything from like 50 to 75 quid really. Right now these are probably about £100 more, 180, 190 pounds. So definitely a worthwhile upgrade, and they last longer as well, which is like a double bonus. Just to compare, I do have a AliExpress special from Zitto, ZTTO, 164 grams, which is an impressively low weight. Yeah, like another 100 grams saving. So the problem with these, I have used them a few times, and they wear down really fast. They're also quite noisy, and I have seen them. The guy from Trace Velo, Luke, has split them as well. I haven't ever seen that happen. I've never persevered with them long enough to get to the point where they split, but you can see there's not an awful lot holding this together. This is just the center section here is literally only attached to the middle two teeth, and then this here, so I can see how with a bit of corrosion that would split. But for the price, and if you really need to shave the grams, it's probably another level to go to. But personally, here in a bike shop, when we need to sort of warranty our work and give good advice to customers, I think the Dura-Ace one offers you really good durability, good weight savings at a pretty good price. So let's line up those two little things, and if you get that right, satisfying. And no, we don't grease the carrier here, not because there's no need, just because you don't want to introduce anything else in there. It just collects dirt and debris. And also, you know, when you get those little notches into the free hub body, it's because it's moving. You don't want to lubricate it. You actually want some friction here. It's all held together with friction. So if you start lubricating things that you decide to be still, then it's just going to make the situation worse. However, I do just put a tiny little bit of lubrication on these threads. Doesn't need loads. Awesome tool for doing this. It's got the 12mm pin on it, and it's nice and deep as well. So if you are using SRAM cassettes, it goes that little bit deeper. Next up, disc rotors. So these are the standard Ultegra ones. These are the CRT, the CL800s. Now, they do a Dura-Ace version of this called the 900s, and they are, well, they look a whole lot nicer. They've got sort of more of this filled in, but they're about the same weight, to be honest. And that's not what we're going for today. So 111 grams for your bog standard Shimano. And these, a recommendation from you guys actually, in that last video that I made, Galfer Rotors were the ones to go for. We've used these a fair bit on mountain bike builds. Haven't used them a great deal in road bike builds, I've got to say. But that's the design. So still two-piece floating rotor. This lovely wavy design. I'm not sure about the aesthetics, but I still think that works better with the Ultegra group set. But we are in 104 versus, well, so that's 7 odd grams. I'm not quite sure that was the best deal in the world, but hey, we'll go with it. And here's a little lock ring here. So when it comes to lock rings, you'll normally see when you buy disc rotors, two different lock ring varieties. You have this inner lock ring, which will use a standard cassette lock ring tool. I don't have one here, but you'll see on the box what type of lock ring it's going to use. I have one with a magnet on or an external one. Generally speaking, for road bike, I'll just get the internal. It means that sometimes you'll find that the actual caliper itself could interfere with the internal. So just stick with the internal ones most of the time. Again, we don't need lubrication on this. It's aluminium. There shouldn't be anything there that is going to corrode. The instructions don't ask for it, so we don't add it. So these axles, they're made by Miele. Remember, we went to the Miele factory, but they use the Mavic system with this double thread. What that kind of means is it's got two start points to the thread, so you can't use a normal tap. The only people that make these taps for doing this is Mavic. You can do it on a lathe. They're made on a lathe with two turns essentially. So the idea is that one turn here results in two turns here. So you essentially can get your axle in and out faster. It's quite clever, but it does catch people out. In fact, a little top tip, if you are worried if you've got Mavic axles or something like this, you'll see it written in the thread here. It'll be 2 times. Better not forget the brake pads. So, brake pads. Here's a cool thing. When you buy Hope calipers, you get brake pads with them, and you get 2 sets. You get a red set and a blue set. Hope say that the red set is for gravel conditions, for wetter, muddier conditions, and the blue is for road. And these are made by Galfer, so it should be written on the side there, Hope by Galfer. So these will work nicely with our rotors. Whenever you're handling these, just try not to touch the actual braking parts themselves. Put the red ones back in there, stop any contamination. I'm so glad that the colour matches. Now this is a high corrosion bit because we're putting 2 different metals together, but I want to put enough in that it's not going to go everywhere. That is more than enough. The important thing with these is to not screw them down dead tight. So these literally just need to nip up, and then they actually have a little hole in the end here we put a split pin in. So if you're going to tighten these up, they're going to seize because everything's going to get really hot and expand. So literally just the tiniest land the thread. What I'm doing here is just opening up this a little bit so that as I push the pads back in, it doesn't just overload the system and blow past all the seals. So what will happen is as I push the pads back in, the oil will come out here. Normally I'd put a cloth over this, but I kind of want to show you guys. I'm just going to wrap that cloth around. Anyway, back to the axles, and we can put a little bit of grease on these. Don't need to go absolutely mad. Just need to keep to the same grease that's going to be amongst our bearings. Now you should see what I mean by about this double thread. You see how quickly this goes in? And that's the benefit of that double thread. So just getting to loosen these off, give the lever a bit of a squeeze, get a bite point, and then, I mean, there are dozens of tools to be able to do this, but I just kind of like doing it by ear and by sight really. You should be able to see most of the time, but okay. So my process here is front wheel on, and we'll get the bike on its wheels, and then I'll put the saddle and get all those levers in the right position, and then worry about all the bar tape and finishing up. Oh yes, what a great fit. Cool, actually these Galfer Rotors haven't come out the packet perfectly straight. We've got a little bit of truing up work to do. So rather than a consistent rub, there's one point where it always rubs. And when you're down there with your eyes, you can see the Galfer Rotor isn't exactly true. Now what I'm going to do is not true that now. I'm actually going to run it through its brake breading in process first, so it's got hot, and then go through that process. So we'll come back to that in a second. Now these have got a safety cutout, but it is still a little bit aggressive, so just going to stop it as it touches. And then you can see we just need to get these all a little bit better lined up. So these bars don't have any sort of markings on the side, not that you should trust them anyway. So I'm going to use a little alignment gauge. It's not going to be that easy to get these identical, and there's nothing worse when you're like spending hours and hours on your bike if your levers aren't in the same place. If you've got one higher than the other, just sort of wind you up. There's threads in here. And we're just going to take a reference point and just use the highest point of the shifter. Again, you need to remember to use your torque wrench with everything under momentum. That's what we're looking for. Importantly, make sure they don't move. Oh, we've still got movement there. All I'm going to do is increase that by another ½ Newton meter. Remember, on the Shimano documentation, there's a range. Start off at the smallest and work your way up to the biggest. Oh, that one's still a little bit loose. That one's a whole lot better. We're just trying to go for the minimum amount of torque required, and stay within our range. There we go, that's sorted. I think this will just about work on this. Get that lined up. And on the side here it says max is 5, so what we'll do, we'll come to 5 and I'm just going to back it off 0.2, because if it's written a max, that is a do not exceed number, and if it says a number, that is a target, so this is a maximum. So what they're asking for then is they should have no slip but don't exceed 5 Newton meters. And with these, what we're trying to do is balance them. You see that the torque wrench still hasn't clicked. Oh, that got our first click there. Click. I'm just going to tweak this one again. This one should probably move ever so slightly now, and then click. That should be us. And again, check nothing rotates. Cool. Right, saddles. Wanted to fit this, one of my favourite saddles. This is the Prologo Dimension, the NDR with the grippy pads. I think are great for climbing. However, normally in Wiliers you get 2 seat post clamps. You get one for 7x9 rails and one for 7x7 rails. This being a demo bike, I've just realised I've got 2 7x7 rails, so I don't actually have the clamp for the carbon one. So slight change of plan, so we can get out for a test ride, is we're going to use this Repente Quasar. It's quite a racy saddle actually, still quite wide. Love the cutout on this. It's quite stiff, so if you're into sort of really pushing hard on the pedal, I think it works quite well. It doesn't really suit a very upright position, but the weight difference, this is a pretty lightweight because it's got metal rails, 174 grams compared to what I did have. I mean, there's 10 grams in it for the carbon rails. This one's got a little bit more padding maybe, but we're going to go for this. That is definitely light enough. Cool. So essentially these 2 bits grip on this slidey surface here, and we should be able to get that into position. This Ritchie seat post clamp has literally been around for decades and decades and decades. It's definitely a well-proven design. And I'm just going to go for dead center of the rails, a very slight downward tilt as a starting point. Just hold that still with your hands and just bring up that torque slowly. And we are 12 Newton meters. So while I'm down here, I'm going to set this to my saddle height, which is 79 centimeters. Hey, that wasn't a million miles off, look. There we go. Finishing touches, let's get these brake pads away. So I've had this chain sat in here for a little while. This is a Silka chain stripper. Get the wax pot on, 95 degrees. So the important thing if you're doing chain waxing, what I don't think they always tell you in all the tutorials is that once you've taken all the oil off your chain, 1, dry it before it goes into the crock pot, and 2, don't just leave it on the side because it's going to rust so fast. So if you just think, oh, I could put that in the chain stripper, leave it on the draining board overnight, put the crock pot on in the morning or something, it will be rusty by the morning, possibly even sooner. So if you do it, get it out, get all the chain stripper rinsed off and get your chain dry. Okay, while waiting for this to heat up, let's put some tools away and go and do the brake bedding in. Cool, so brake bedding in machine, we have got 160mm 2-piece rotor, so we want section number B. Front wheel, pop this in. We'll just pull it until that green light comes on. So I'm just feathering the brake lever with my hand till that timer goes down. Just feathering this. Oh, now it's getting hot. So on here we've got a little switch down here, just flicks us round to the rear wheel. Brakes done. That amount of smoke is not common, but it's not uncommon. Do need a little bit of tweaking. I'm gonna wait for everything to cool down before I stick my fingers down there. What I am gonna do is, while we're waiting for that to heat up still, and for those to cool down, is do the bar tape. We are going for something a little bit funky. I like messing around with our demo bikes to try different things. Not many customers have been brave enough to try this bar tape yet, so it's nice to put it on a demo bike and see what people think. This is, now we did show you this at the trade show. This is like the 3D tape. It's kind of got this texture to it. I have used it before and it's weirdly comfortable, but it does look strange. Now what I'd love to do with this is get a lovely reverse wrap going. And so for that, you're going to need to go in this direction because you want to cover up this bit here. So, and where we're going to start is probably going to be about here. So for that, I'm going to put a little bit of tape on here. I think what I'll do is I'll line this up with the green paint, but we need to start at roughly that sort of angle. So let's get that stuck down. This tape's really awkward to try and find the lip, especially when you're a mechanic and have no fingernails. Cool, so what I'm going to do here is to fill this little gap, because these bars have got a bit of a divot. We're going to do a double wrap just there to help cover that up, and then go into our figure of 8. And with this figure of 8, I'm going to really try and tuck it up, keeping these edges stuck down.
That was inside.
There we go, and that's our third wrap over the top. And what should happen then is you should just improve that gap. There we go. And with this tape, it means that we're still with the unprinted edge is still our leading edge that we cover up. So it's all worked out rather nicely. With these stretchy bar tapes, it's much easier to keep, which is what I mean by the leading edge, to try and keep this touching the bar. If that lifts, then that's when you get little creases and it lifts. So what I'll do here, you see how it's naturally wanting to create like a little lift. So what I'm going to do is just manipulate this and pull it to the point where that stays in contact with the bar. Cool. Now with this, when we cut it, we need to fold back quite a bit to get this to stick. So I'm actually going to cut it. I'm going to do something like this. And what I'm going to try and do is do this one quite tight, so you can see it's almost wrapping itself around already. In hindsight, probably could have done something a bit more bling with the bar ends, but this is what it came with, and also you can't argue that they're not light. Well, I think that's definitely going to divide opinion, but we'll go with it. Can't deny, it's definitely comfy. I have to admit, I would have liked if I could have matched it up with the saddle. That would look pretty futuristic. I'm going to see if we can find one of these Ritchie clamps, because this is my preferred saddle, but hey, we'll go with that for now. Chain wax is up to temperature. Chain is dry. That's always nice. Just trying to keep it off the floor. You don't want to pick up any debris as we go. Now, the thing is with this, you want to go fairly short loops, otherwise it just hangs down and gets in the way. Here we go. Let's get that chucked in there. And we swizzle, swizzle, swizzle. Cool. Little jobs while we're waiting then. So these are from AliExpress and they're dead cheap and they're dead good. And what they are is a little 3D printed. I mean, I could probably 3D print most of these ourselves, but to be honest, they are so cheap it's just not worthwhile. And that's it, just these two little black things here, which you can see on the black plastic. It's such a good upgrade for anyone running Ultegra stuff, because this top shift button is really, really awkward. And what these do, as you'll see, there's a little recessed end and they just sit over that button. When you put this back into place, it makes it significantly easier to press that button, because that's quite a stiff, that's it, that's all it does. But you'll be surprised how much difference that makes. It means that you can just touch it with your thumb rather than sort of trying to dig in with your thumb. Small things. Here we go, all done. Had to bring it outside in the sunshine just to show off this amazing paintwork. Now, this is what you were all waiting for. Let's just zero these off. This is a sensible lightweight. We haven't gone mad on any of this. So what I would call sensible, and we are at 6.8. Now that, I would say, is a UCI legal bike, as in I think you could go to the scrutineers, the commissaires, sorry, and then say, yep, it's just enough over that it's definitely going to pass. And everything on here is something that I would want to ride. I don't think we've compromised on stiffness, safety, durability. Some great choices here. Just to remind you, what have we done? We kept with that Ultegra crankset, because if we didn't, it would be an illegal bike by the looks of it. We've got those DT Swiss, the ARC 1000 rims, 28 mils, 26 mils, and then the lightweight savings. We've got the Hope calipers and the Galfer Rotors, which save some of that weight. But those are upgrades which not only make it lighter, but also make it significantly better, because a hill climbing bike, remember, once you get to the top of the hill, you want to really enjoy coming downhill on it. And I want a bike that still feels sturdy, confidence inspiring. It's still going to brake on those long mountain descents when you're on the brakes. Right, with all that said, we need to go ride it. Change of plan. Chris here, our video editor and videographer, has just told me that this video is already 45 minutes long. So let's go and do the ride test separately. I think we can put much more attention into that. And if you are looking to join the Mapdec team and you have those videographer skills, Chris is going traveling around Asia, and we are going to be recruiting for someone to take up his spot. So if you like bikes and love filming and editing, stuff like that, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.